In the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost.
Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. I wonder if any of you ever come across offers that are just too good to be true. I often get these emails from foreign countries inviting me to be a part of some kind of money transfer that I can make millions of dollars from. And if I will only furnish them with certain pieces of personal information, such as my bank account number, social security number, those kinds of things. Of course, you always see the buy one, get one free, and all the other things that constantly go on and on and on. And when you think about these things, you have to think about them seriously, because mostly they are completely bogus, designed to clean out your personal wealth or defraud you in some manner. This old adage that says if it's too good to be true, it usually is. So that should constitute a sound warning to us. Now, likewise, I have problems with a lot of televangelists. These guys who preach a prosperity gospel with a lot of information based on the premises that the more you give, the more you're going to be blessed, which absolutely makes no sense. It's cheap salvation. I don't believe God works that way. God certainly loves a cheerful giver, but I think He wants us to give according to our ability, freely, and without any kinds of concessions. And along those lines, I heard a funny story. It seems that a rabbit and a snake met in the forest. The rabbit said, we don't know how we look. Why don't we describe to each other so we'll know how we look? The snake said, good idea. You've got a pink nose, long ears, and a fluffy little tail. The rabbit liked that and said, I'm a rabbit, I'm a rabbit. And of course he was very well pleased. Describe me, said the snake. The rabbit said, well, you have a forked tongue, shifty eyes, and diamonds all over you. Oh no, said the snake, I'm a televangelist. The biggest problem that I have with so many of these people is they try to make salvation sound so easy. And that's what today's gospel is all about. Jesus invites us to the altar of salvation. But we have to accept that invitation. We have to partake according to some kind of godly etiquette. In other words, meaning we live godly lives by the code of morality that our Lord taught us. And this is very important. When we do that, we don't have to spend our lives making excuses for the things we are unwilling to do in that respect. I mean, we've heard today's parable many, many times. I heard that as a kid in Sunday school. Not sure I really knew what it meant in those days, but as I became older and older, I've heard this sermon preached hundreds of times probably. It concerns a wealthy man who decided to give a great banquet and invited lots of people. And it was the custom of the day. He sent his servant out to remind his guest. And alas, what he got in return was not the gracious acceptance of what he thought would be a wonderful opportunity to meet and dine together and have a good, friendly meal, but rather a series of somewhat lame excuses that he found difficult to accept. Now, in order to follow Christ, what this parable is trying to teach us is that we have to understand some of the basic premises. First of all, we have to understand that the banquet was not given because the master was indebted to his guest. He didn't have to do this. And likewise, we're not offered salvation because God is in any way indebted to us. He has no obligation to offer us anything. Salvation belongs to the Lord, wrote the psalmist. Psalm 3, verse 8. Isaiah wrote, keep justice and do righteousness, for my salvation is about to come. And John wrote in Revelation, salvation belongs to our God who sits on the throne and to the Lamb. But God has given us this invitation. An invitation that's just too generous to refuse. You know, I often wonder what people think about God. How do you think God looks? What's God really all about? We see G-O-D, big capital letters. What does that really mean? Some people think of God as a bully, tyrant, just waiting to beat us up when we step out of line. But listen, while we're expected to obey God, I'm not sure that we should think of him only in terms of a God of vengeance. Rather, this morning I think that we should think of God as being the most gracious, generous person we could ever imagine. Someone who only wants the best for us, who wants to give us every possible blessing. Now, that's not to say that God gives us everything we want. Rather, you remember that old song, God wants you to give me a Mercedes? Well, you might end up with a T Model Ford, and not necessarily because that's what God wants you to have, but that's what you got. Sometimes we need to be taught a little bit in the way of patience for those things we so desperately think we need. Look at the example of our gracious God in the banquet host. He fixed a great banquet. I mean, this man spared no expense. He invited a lot of people to his party. He sends out invitations, gets all the arrangements made, every detail is prepared, and then he sends out a second invitation just to remind those who've been invited, what a gracious God we have here. One who constantly calls us to come and be with him. One who's prepared everything for us in advance. He gives us an invitation that, quite frankly, is just too generous to refuse. You know, some people still refuse. I was listening to a well-known talk show host a few weeks ago, was talking about the disrespect and obvious disdain that the national media have for Christians. He said, I ought to be more religious. I think I'm a Christian, but I ought to show the world I'm a Christian. What are you waiting for? You've been invited, why don't you accept? The invitation as shown in today's parable, my friends, is not going to last forever. And then we have to remember this. The master did not put on this grand banquet to indebt his guests to him. God does not beat us down in order to be Lord and Master of us. A lot of people have that concept of God, but it's wrong. God does hold us captive in some respects. But he does that as a parent would watch over their children in order to keep them safe. Paul spoke to us in the 4th chapter of Ephesians. He said, as a prisoner of the Lord, I beg you to live in a way that is worthy of the people God has chosen to be his own. To always be humble and gentle. Patiently put up with each other and love each other. Try your best to let God's Spirit keep your hearts united. Do this by living at peace, for all of you are the same body. There's only one Spirit, one God, just as you were given one hope when you were chosen to be God's people. We have only one Lord, one faith, one baptism, is that prayer we said at the altar earlier today. Not only is God above all others, but he works by using us when he lives in all of us. Finally, I might ask the question, why God, the Master, offer us this banquet of salvation? The answer to that is quite simple. God is a God of mercy. He has a heart of love and a heart of grace. And for many years I struggled with this idea of grace. There's something here that's one of the things that you can say that is as good as it is when it says it's free. It is free. And it comes from God. Salvation is not necessarily easy. This idea of just raise your hand, walk down the aisle, just recite this prayer, just ask Jesus into your heart. And that sounds real simple. The only thing is that none of those actions really have anything to do with the real salvation of Jesus Christ and getting through that narrow gate into heaven. I don't believe anyone ever slipped and fell into the kingdom of God. That's cheap grace. Easy believers. Christianity light, I call it. A shallow, emotional, revivalist approach. I believe in Jesus, fine, you're in. Nope. Not quite that easy. It's a little more complicated than that. The kingdom of God is for those who agonize to enter it, whose hearts are shattered sometimes over their sinfulness, who mourn in weakness, who hunger and thirst and long for God to change their lives. Now, I have many friends who consider themselves evangelicals. I love evangelicals. They're a great part of the Christian nation. But you have to understand that you cannot have a watered-down gospel that simply has no accountability, no requirements, no expectations of fruit, no genuine life change, no genuine repentance, no transformation, all of those kinds of things. I had an interesting experience once when I was working in a hospital. Somehow or another, I ended up spending a lot of time in the psychiatric ward, and so every weekend brought all kinds of problems in. I got a lot of alcoholics who I saw on a regular basis. One old guy I saw him about every other weekend. So I used to try to tell these people, listen, what you need to do is you need to get into some kind of support group, get into AA and stay there, be part of a church. And he says, oh, I tried that. Pastor, he told me. He said, I went to church, but you know, all they wanted to tell me was I was a sinner and an alcoholic. They didn't do anything to help me. Unfortunately, I think the church does that sometimes. We turn our backs on people who really need our love and our concern. And that's not what Jesus had in mind. If you cannot passionately love Jesus Christ, if you cannot believe that sometimes laying down your life for the God you love is important, taking up that cross, making a clean break with the world, then your chances of surviving this world are right little. If you do anything less than that, then you're misrepresenting the gospel that we read in church every Sunday. The gospel is not an ABC, a raise your hand, a genie in a lamp, self-esteem, easy believism. Just go to church on Sunday, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, morality-based, man-centered, path of ease, riches, pleasure. It has nothing to do with any of those things. It's a hard road that is a narrow road and a difficult road which many, many people are going to falter on. There are no excuses. All the people in today's gospel parable who gave those lame excuses, I have oxen, I haven't tried, a field I haven't seen, a wife I don't really have. None of those things are good excuses. I'm sorry. Jesus spoke with those who accepted the invitation to dine, the poor, the maimed, the lame, the blind, the homeless, people who had been struck with hard times, people who knew what deprivation meant. And when warm fellowship and food were offered, they gladly came. I think the psalmist summarized this very well when he wrote in the 95th Psalm. Oh, come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker. For he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture, and the sheep of his hand. And we can never harden our hearts